What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In our last video, I promised you guys a JK update. So that's exactly what we're doing today. We've got a pretty cool mod going on the interior of the JK, and it's most likely going to be the last mod that we do before the engine swap. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Most of the time when I do an install video, I at least kind of know what I'm doing. And worst case scenario, I can look at the instructions to figure out what the next step is. But there's not really any instructions with this. So come along with me as I figure it out. Hopefully we both learn something. But for this install, obviously, you're going to have the wheel. We went ahead and grabbed this PRP G124 deep dish steering wheel in suede with the orange stitching, of course. This thing looks sick. And of course, to make it all work with the Jeep, we got this guy. So I went ahead and unplugged the battery cables, both the positive and the negative, because I'm going to make sure that even though that battery's dead, there's no power in the system whatsoever. And because there's no instructions, I really don't necessarily know the next step, but I assume it probably has something to do with removing the old steering wheel. So let's do that. I have not even been in this Jeep since we got back from Myrtle Beach Jeep Jam, and it smells terrible. All right, so we're gonna use a T20 Torx bit, and there's 3 screws on the underside of this shroud. Go ahead and pull those off, and then we'll be able to pop the shroud off so that we can access the pins that hold on the airbag. You're actually going to need a pretty long Torx bit to get a couple of these, so make sure you have that handy. Insert the size matters joke here. Once you get your screws out, all you're going to do is lower down the steering wheel, and you should be able to pop this out of here. It's definitely a two-hand job. And then you'll also carefully remove the lower one. Of course, your ignition is over here, so just look out for it. So if yours is like mine, it's going to sound like you're breaking literally everything trying to remove this, but that went further than I thought it would. Cool. Now there's going to be 3 little tabs around the steering wheel that we're going to need to be able to get with some kind of a hook or pick. One of these guys should work. All right, so I have wrestled with this thing, getting this airbag off for longer than I'd like to admit. But I figured out something that the internet just kind of wasn't helping me with. So everything that I read said that there was 3 openings on the back shroud of the steering wheel to be able to locate the tabs that you need to pull. However, mine only had the one on the bottom. So not really sure when or how they made that change or distinction, but I did end up having to drill 2 holes into the side of the steering wheel, and I'll show you where those are. So in case you run into this issue, hopefully this helps. We're looking at the steering wheel from the front here. You can see on the top side of both sides of the steering wheel, I actually had to drill out a hole because the only access point that I have is here on the bottom. Now, I've seen pictures of others and they've got all 3 holes already there from the factory. So not sure why I was the lucky one to have to learn this, but nevertheless, we got it free. So now I just need to unplug it and safely toss this airbag to the side. This took way longer than I wanted it to, but we got it out. For reference, there is just those 2 plugs on the back side of this. Squeeze them and it'll come right off. Not gonna lie, I really want to blow that airbag up, but it's probably worth something to someone, so we'll save it. YouTube's not paying me enough right now. And once we are in here, there's going to be a 13mm bolt, as well as this plug here that needs to come out. And in theory, we should be able to pull this whole thing off. And if anything that I've read online is true, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to get off without a puller, but we're going to try. All right, well, that didn't work. So we ran to the parts store, rented the puller, and this should take like 2 seconds. That worked. So I will just go ahead and say, go and rent this from your tool place. That made that whole process so much easier. Of course, you guys didn't see it, but I fought to get this wheel off for at least 30 minutes before I gave in and just took the drive over to pick this up. So nevertheless, the wheel is off. Now we're back to trying to figure out what the heck we're doing. All right, guys, so this is the exact moment in the installation where I'm going to tell you that I wish I had gone a different route. So I originally told you guys that I went with the PRP quick disconnect, and this is a universal disconnect. But really what universal means is that it doesn't fit anything specifically, and it's intended to be welded into place. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. However, what's going to end up happening is, because this seat's so flat, I'm going to have to dismantle the clock spring a little bit, and I don't really know exactly what functions I'm going to lose when I do that. Now, of course, anytime you install an aftermarket steering wheel, you may lose some features. One of those, of course, being the airbag. But there are other options out there that make this more of a bolt-on scenario where you're not going to end up in the situation that I'm in. My buddy Zane is also installing a PRP steering wheel in his JK, and his setup is completely different. It's by a company called NRG. It's a bolt-on, everything is good, awesome conversion. This one, however, it's definitely more on the custom side of things. We're going to make it work, but I'll be honest, I kind of wish I'd gone with the NRG option personally. So just so you guys can follow along with the PRP version of this install, I went ahead and pulled the clock spring. This is essentially what is going to replace these splines here, and then that's going to allow us to have our quick disconnect. Now, in order for me to make this work the way that it's supposed to, I'm going to end up having to weld this into place. And I think the best way for me to do that and make sure that I'm not messing anything up is going to be to take that factory bolt and bolt this guy down, and then we'll weld that in. So just as a little proof of concept here, I went ahead and installed the disconnect. Just as you can see, obviously I haven't welded it into place yet. Just wanted to make sure that everything was going to clear when I did do that. But I believe that that's going to work just fine. Now, because the front of our clock spring does have all of this going on, I'm gonna have to, as I mentioned, dismantle this, take this piece apart. All of our turn signals and wipers and all that stuff are mounted to this clock spring plastic. So I can't really just leave it off entirely, or else I'm going to have to make new places to mount all of that. Which, I guess if I'm already breaking out the welder, what's one more thing to weld? But that's not a project for today. So anyways, let's go ahead and get the welder out so that we can glue this on. All right, friends, everything is reassembled. That is all ready to go. I'm gonna put all the plastics back on as well. Let's get the steering wheel on here. Now the steering wheel installs onto the adapter super easily. There's just going to be 6 screws. And of course, we gotta add our PRP faceplate. There we go. Let's go toss it on the Jeep. All right, guys, so there you have it. We have the steering wheel installed and it looks great. However, we've got a problem here because obviously I can't get my fingers behind there to actually release the steering wheel. So now, instead of having a quick release steering wheel, well, we just have a steering wheel. Well, back to the drawing board. As I said, there are other ways to get this job done. And realistically, there's going to be so many changes that happen to the JK here over the next few months that a steering wheel is definitely going to be one of the least of our worries. But hey, hit the like button if you like watching me struggle. And yeah, also subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.